family, it's the time you've been waiting for. That's right, Senior Talk with Claire Hubbard, your resource and information show for people getting better with age. Well, I am extremely honored to have my brother Kwesi joining us today. He is a PR guru. He took off his roller skates today because he's been anywhere you want to be, making an impact in our community. Yeah. We're here today because we're on a subject that is universal, and that is the subject of suicide. This is Suicide Awareness Month, but we're going to dive deep into his advocacy on suicide, and more importantly, just how he is healing through tragedy. And gun ceasefire project coming up. He's doing a lot of things that are impacting this country and worldwide. So we're not going to leave anything off the table. But what we want to do now is show you a little bit of our brother in action, then bring him to the mic. Everyone stay tuned.
Suicide is the number one social ill in the world, reported by the World Health Organization. That nearly 800,000 people from around the world take their lives each year. Last year, the CDC reported that 49,000 people committed suicide last year. The Sun-Times, September 23, reported that since the pandemic, there's been an uptick of suicide among Black residents, specifically among Black women. So I understand that dealing with my brother's death, I thought to take up my life several times. That particular poem that I wrote, One Shot Away, it was up for the Grammy Awards Mary Award for Best Song for Social Change. Because writing poetry saved my life, it allowed me to commit, to take my life to paper and not get active in life. So we face the mercy God, whatever you're going in through again. Tap in to the God within. Yeah.
All right, brother. Please just introduce yourself, and you're not going to be a stranger. You will be joining us again, but introduce yourself to our viewing and listening audience.
Yes, I am first and foremost, through the Prince of Peace, all glory be to God. My name is Kwesi Goharo, aka Kwesi the Poet. The name which I received from the city of Chicago when I was on the #1 radio show, the Rick Party Show on WGCI back. The show aired spring of 1993. So in the literary poetry space, I've been deemed a living legend by my contemporaries because I introduced poetry to mainstream Chicago on that show, on Rick Party Show at spring of 1993, really giving poetry a platform. Studied abroad in Oxford, England, a Master's Literature program, HBC, graduated from the Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. I spent the past 17 years residing in Hollywood prior to my move back to Chicago. In January 2023, the city of Chicago, specifically Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, emailed me wanting me to apply for the appointment for Chicago's inaugural poet laureate position. So in order to even be qualified for that position, I had to give up or put my Hollywood aspirations on the back burner to move back to Chicago to pursue my first love, poetry, literature, becoming my first love. So I became a nominee, wasn't appointed, though disappointed. I decided to stay in Chicago, fight the good fight of gun violence prevention, and use my story not just to have social influence, but to have social impact. I became a poet not through the ivory walls of academia, but through the intrepid act of my younger brother, James Lemont Ford, aka Lamont. He was 17 years of age when he forfeited his life to save his friend Kim's life. Lamont was shot and killed execution style by two other Black men, Eric Taylor and Jonathan Jenkins. And Clara, I mentioned their names because this perpetuated violence, their family lost those two brothers as well. So I seek to sacrifice, be a living sacrifice with my life to share my story, to be a light in darkness in our community regarding gun violence prevention, domestic violence, suicide prevention, substance abuse, and because these are some of the social ills that face Chicago and America and the world, and these are some of the things that I face internally with myself and dealing with the trauma of my brother's murder. So becoming a poet, my spoken word album, Truth, the Way, the Life, which was produced by Rosella Bynum, super produced by Chicago's very own super producer, Spike Rebel, featuring Grammy-nominated artist himself, Team John Hill. One Shot Away is the very poem, Clara, that I wrote that prevented me from taking my life via suicide, because creatively, as I shared in the piece, it allowed me to take my life through pen and a pad, and not enact that trauma, anger, rage, hate, and reality. And then writing poetry empowered me to write Me and to forgive the two men who shot and killed Lamont, to make peace.
Well, I have been in so much research, and I had to ask you this question. How could you take such a tragedy, use the word forgiveness, because we're using your term, love, peace, and forgiveness movement. How do
Yes.
you take that? How does someone forgive and move into a spirit of, just honor? I mean, you're honoring your brother, but that's a hard thing to do for some. And some people will force action or revenge. Let's be very clear.
Yes.
But how do you create the love, the peace, love movement, and forgiveness? How did you take that? What is that the words that are coming, your pen and paper when you're writing, how does that project to heal? What did you bring out of what you were feeling onto paper to help heal yourself?
Well, one word, Jesus.
Amen. Talk to me.
And seeking to be Christ-like, a person with humility, love, compassion, forgiveness, and justice. And sometimes that justice is not just court justice, it's moral justice. It's the justice that we can find within ourselves, because our greatest war, as you know, Claire, is the war within ourselves.
Yeah.
And once we can understand and really tap into our spiritual belief, specifically as Christians, or being a disciple of Jesus, it's I'm not going to say an easy, task to a journey to walk, but nonetheless, if that is who you believe in, it becomes second nature, and it really has been my lifestyle, because I grew up in the church, and one of the first principles you are taught in Sunday school or Bible study is the principle of forgiveness, and seeking to be, Christ-like. And so, I mean, it's corny or cheesy as it may sound, but simple, one word, Jesus.
Amen. There's no mistake about that. That's the real deal. Yeah. And I say that because I, like you, I haven't that tragedy, but I know what it means to have that root of God in the family, where we go to for, i.e., refuge, where we go for our answers, as opposed to other persons. Some of us are just trying to. Well, no, don't. I wouldn't say tell your friends, go to Jesus first, get on your knees. How about that? And make that happen. So let's talk about the Innocent Rage Foundation.
Yes. And see, Claire, I would be completely honest with you. Now, I had no desire to do what I'm doing prior to my brother being killed. My degree is in business marketing. My brother was killed my senior year at Central State, January 11th, 1992. I was a senior, and I was actually going to drop out of school or transfer from Central State, come back home to Chicago to be with my mother. But she's like, no, you've come too far, to either drop out or transfer, finish there. I'll be all right. So I said, well, Mom, I'm going to drive home every other week to be with you. Because after we buried my brother Lamont on January 18th, we moved my mom completely out of the house, because she said, I can't live here. Because every time someone knocks on the door, she's going to think it's her son.
Sure.
So we moved her in with my Aunt Viv. And every other weekend up until I graduated from college, I was driving home to be with my mom. And on June 7th, 1992, Lamont posthumously graduated from Thornton Township High School in Harvey, Illinois, in which my mom received his diploma. So the Innocent Rage Foundation is a byproduct of my book, Innocent Rage. Innocent rage, innocent being Lamont was an innocent victim of a violent crime. Lamont wasn't at the wrong place at the wrong time. He was on our block in our community, literally 6 or 7 doors down from my house, when Eric and Jonathan pulled up in front of him and Kim on the block in the car. This is about 10:30 at night on that Saturday, January 11th. Lamont and his friends were out doing what teenagers do back then. But back then, it wasn't no cell phones. We barely were just getting into technology with beepers. And so kids actually went home to check in with their parents and say, yo, mom, yo, dad, we at such and such house. We're going to be there watching movies, video games, watching music, videos, or do what kids do, talk jokes about each other. And so Lamont didn't have to check in because my mom had already known he had just left an hour or so early or whatever. So she knew where he was. And so as they were waiting for Kim and Lamont, waiting for all their friends to come back, it was about 10, 12 of them. They were sitting waiting, and Eric and Jonathan pulled up on the block in the car. And Jonathan was the driver. Eric got out of the car and approached Kim twice. She thought Eric was going to ask for directions, so she stepped back. And the second time he approached her, he pulled up the sawed-off 12-gauge shotgun. And that's when Lamont intervened and stepped in and said, yo, step back and what's going on. So from that point, Eric turns his attention from Kim to Lamont and forced him in the car with the 12-gauge to his car. So the Innocent Rage Foundation really is a not-for-profit organization with our mission is to educate, empower, and inspire the community on gun violence prevention through the art of poetry.
Now, let me ask you, have you had a conversation with the two gentlemen? Or
yes.
have you just forgiven them?
I eat my debut book, Innocent Rage.
Okay, give us that. We're going to get that link, so we need to hear about that. Yes, sir.
No, during the murder trial, we was in court for almost 3.5 years. The trial lasted for a week. When they were convicted of first-degree murder, life in prison, we were fortunate. They caught the killers. We got court justice, but I was still looking for an inner peace in which that I only knew didn't come to court justice, because I'm like, my brother's still deceased. I still got to live with this pain, this hurt, this anger, this rage, this hate, this trauma. And I didn't want to live with it for the rest of my life. So one of the very few times, Claire, that I visited my brother's grave site was after the trial had ended. I said, bro, what am I supposed to do with this pain? Like, I physically wanted to be next to him.
Wow.
So the only way that I could physically, I would just always visit where they took Lamont on 142nd and Lincoln Street in Dixmoor. I would go to that vacant lot or that corner, and I would sit there and meditate there, opposed to going to the gravesite. And so when I was at this gravesite, the spirit said, Kwesi, forgive them. So I said, I forgive Eric Taylor and Jonathan Jenkins for the murder of my younger brother, James for Lamont. I cried like a baby.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. And then I was very emotional. And then I said, okay, what am I asked in the spirit, what else am I supposed to do with this? And my spirit said, right. And so I wrote them 2 letters at Cook County Correctional Facility, asking them their permission if I could meet them. The first time they didn't respond to the letter. The second letter, they responded. Jonathan responded with a collect call. Eric, he called collect. At this particular time, living with my mother, she answered the phone, Clara. And that wasn't a good moment between my mother and myself at that particular time. Because she was like, boy, how you going to hide this man who killed my son? Your brother called my house collect. And I said, Ma, I can't live with this pain. You taught us this and bringing us up in the church about the importance of forgiveness. So I told them, I asked them to call me. And so I'm going to ask them if I can go meet him to forgive him. She looked at me with the look of death, handed me the phone and walked out. You know what I'm saying? Like the look of death, like, how dare you? But nonetheless, my mom taught us to be sacrificial. I mean, Lamont could have stepped away when Eric approached a young lady with a gun and shrank him, but he stepped in to protect her. So now, and being quote unquote a living sacrifice and being Christ, my trauma, I said, how can I use my story to be a benefit to myself, the family, and the community at large? And so I through poetry, I share through the Innocent Rage Foundation. We implement certain initiatives. We just reenacted the Innocent Rage Foundation because when I left for Hollywood in 2006, it became deactivated in 2007. And so we're back on the block, back in the community the past 2.5 years. with several social impact initiatives from our Memorial Holiday Weekend ceasefire, poetry and comedy on the block, to a client of mine, KGPR, Rosella Hester Bynum. We produced her holiday toy drive, and some other initiatives that we look to do. But money takes that. Like, have a grant writer procure $2.5 million for the organization, but nonetheless, with the federal cuts, that money has been on hold. So we've had an organization like Habilitated Systems Incorporated come in and help be a brand sponsor with the second annual Memorial Holiday Weekend. And so it's just, I'm in a unique space and seeking to use what has happened to myself, my family, in a way to make myself, my family, and the community at large better. Specifically in our climate today, Claire. I mean, it's nothing but and rage going on. So we need some peace, love, and forgiveness.
Every day. I'm gonna say it like the every day. So let me ask you. I have known you for many years before the inception of this show, and I did not know that you personally had a bout with suicide. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's the unfortunate thing about dealing with such a dark issue, because we don't want nobody to think that we're mentally weak and that we can't handle life.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically in the Black community, specifically Black men, we don't want nobody to think, oh, we're crazy, we're insane, we can't move through this maze called life. And so, fortunately for me, I found poetry found me. And matter of fact, it kind of started with Rick Party. Met Rick Party December 1992 at a charity event he was hosting. I was working at Celebrity Hair Design Barbershop, and I passed him my car and said, yo, come check me out. You ever need to cut? So he came in January. And so being I don't even want to say if I call myself a writer or whatever at the time, I was just looking to deal with the pain and hurt. So I would read the Bible and I would read self-improvement books. And when I would come across a quote that I like, I would put the quote on my barbershop or my mirror in the salon. And I just had all these positive quotes. And so every time Rick would come get a haircut, like every week or whatever, about 3 months, he said one day, he just said, Kwesi, come to the studio.
Wow.
And I was like, I know Rick was setting me up to be on the radio, but he's like, come to the radio.
Yeah.
And so I was like, he invited me down to the station. He's like, actually, Kwesi, say one of those positive things that you have on your mirror.
Right.
And that's how my spoken word segment, Food for the Soul, started. By Rick giving me 10 seconds, and it would come on at the top 99 every night. It aired for 7 years, and it grew from 15 seconds to 30 seconds to 60 seconds to 90 seconds. And I would feature other young poets on my show doing my segment. You know, my contemporaries like Avery R. Young, who's the first inaugural poet laureate for the city of Chicago.
Yes.
Jay Ivey, who's a 2-time Grammy winner. Malik Youssef, who's been nominated over 40 times for Grammys, an 8-time winner. Contemporary like Jessica Care Moore, poet laureate of Detroit. You know, and elementary school poets and college student poets featured on my segment, because, Claire, I was never intimidated by another poet's brilliance with the word. I said, yo, I have this platform. I'm going to share it to grow the art, to grow and let other voices be heard and not be a herder of the show or poetry itself. And so, yeah, poetry has literally, you know, saved my life. And writing the poem One Shot Away, the very poem that saved my life, which is up again for the Grammy Awards, the Recording Academy, Harry Belafonte Best Song for Social Change Award. You know, because it addresses suicide. And I think specifically as Black men, when other Black men see me talk about such a dark issue, it empowers them to tap into their weakness to find their strength. You know, and unfortunately, you know, as it's stated in the piece, suicide is the number one, unfortunately, the world's number one social ill, with 800,000 people around the world taking their life via suicide. And I was just talking to, I'm performing this Sunday with the Much Love, or, you know, Sunday with the Much Love Foundation, and in honoring of National Suicide Prevention Month. And one of her colleagues, her cousin's daughter, committed suicide, you know, 3 weeks ago. 13 years of age. At 13, what's going on in our young people's life that they feel as though that they don't have the self-worth to live?
Yeah.
And I know how it feels because I was there. I was there several times, Claire. I thought about taking my life via suicide. And these are things that we don't talk about to our close friends.
Right.
We just deal with it internally, and or deal with it internally until we blow up, snap off, we turn to drugs, alcohol, being promiscuous, cocaine, whatever. And
Right.
I turned to some of those external things to escape the pain and to numb the pain. But when it didn't work, through the grace and mercy of God, through the Prince of Peace, I found poetry, and poetry became my creative outlet.
Well, brother, I'm going to go, since we both church, let's talk about this. I'm going to give it to you straight. I'm hearing you. And what I am hearing is that you chose Habakkuk, write the vision and make it plain so they can run with it.
Yes.
And that's what it is. That pen to paper is the vision.
Yes.
And you've done an exceptional job. So we're going to give everybody a little treat on some of your poetry emotion. Everyone stay tuned. You're watching Senior Talk with Claire Hubbard live here on Senior Talk Media. Everyone stay tuned.
Don't judge me. I did study abroad in England, but I went to a public school in South Chicago, so my math. One plus one. Yeah, 1 plus 1 is 3. Yeah. 1 is 3. Because you are who I am, and you make me me. If you had to see, because I just want to be what you want me to be. Because I just want me to be. So I continue to grow in you, but sometimes I want to leave you so my family can have my separate loaves of bread and my few fish. But my wish is to be with you, because I need you like the morning needs the sun. And though I cannot see you, you are not the missing one. I need you like the ocean needs the stream. So my dream of you being in the I have deserted you. You have kept me like the night from the glow of the moon. And when there's gloom in my earth, your sun, but sometimes my mind is so convoluted with these earthly things. But wisdom of you is more precious than the diamonds you bring. Tell others about you. I tell others about you. I tell others about. This is how I keep it to thyself, but you know me better than I. I can't do this by myself. And you told me you were going back. You went back and you will be back. And you went back and you will be back. So I cry out to you by writing to you, because I need you like humans need air. I need you like fish need water. And because of you, I can put a long time ago, because I left people for you and my people. 7 seas plus 5 make it 12, so I delve into the depths of my sea, trying to find back in me. And though at times the pressure from the sea does get to me, so please walk this earth in the universe. Your word is born, that you make the last first. I admit, I have been wrong. You have kept me soft and strong. God, I long for you and me. One.
Woo! Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yes indeed. Yes indeed.
Yes,
So
yes.
oh, it's been a joy having you. We're just talking naturally as friends, and definitely we'll be connected in the future. What would be your closing remark and statement to our viewing and listening audience? We're going to get this, and those who are tuning in and watching, this is going to be on multiple platforms, as they say, wherever you get your favorite podcast. It'll be, but definitely do us a favor. Go to Senior Talk Media. It'll be on our homepage. And if you want more information about our brother, we are putting his information scrolling on Instagram at Kweisithebrand, and we can tell you more about how you can find him. And we definitely want to stay in touch with you, Kwesi, because I'm working on a big campaign now. It's called The Gift of
Mm-hmm.
Love and Life. And a couple of days ago, I had on a brother who's president of the insurance exchange. And we have a campaign now. It's an insurance campaign that helps families from 15 days up to age 17, a policy for up to $30,000 for only $100. And we're trying to help families to live beyond the 17 years, the days of 17 years. They can keep that policy at the same rate up to age 30 and be protected, and it can help with college and expenses. So it's a whole dynamic. We'll talk further
Yes, okay.
about that because it's a win. It's a win-win.
Yes, yes.
You know, we're not projecting. We don't know timing, but we do know that we should have some tools in place in our community. So I am just going to say, it's been a pleasure, brother. I'm thank you for your time and your transparency, and also just sharing the gift of forgiveness, peace, love, and forgiveness.
Yes.
It's not
easy.
It's
not. But again, and I was sharing this with a friend the other day. Actually, the walk with Jesus is a little bit more easier than this life in the secular space because you're constantly challenged and bombarded to be things outside of yourself, to be like others. If we tap into the God within and just truly be our authentic selves and be organically who we are and present that and not a representation of that, we will be better human beings, better friends, better family members, a better society at large. The good news teaches us is that he who does not have control of his own spirit is like a city with broken down walls. And so we have to tap in and control our spirit. One of the fruits of the spirit is self-control. And I think that's the key to life, because when you have self-control, that means you have love for yourself. That means you have joy. That means you have patience. That means you are faithful. You know what I'm saying? So that's me in a nutshell. All glory be to God through the Son, the Prince of Peace, and through my brother's intrepid act of saving his friend's Kim's life, I become who I am and been able to use my academics, savvy and marketing, and becoming a brilliant poet. And I say brilliant because Miss Gwendolyn Brooks told me, Claire, when I performed with her back in 1997, I was a brilliant poet. You know what I'm saying? So I embrace. That's like Jay-Z putting that chain on Rock on Kanye or Kobe seeking to be like Jordan. And when you get that, those words of encouragement from your someone you look up to, that spoke life into me. As a young poet, finding my voice and my space in this literary, genre poetry. So I'm humbled. I'm honored that I have the story that God has blessed me with to share and be a light in darkness, specifically in this day and time right now. My story is more relevant today than it was when it happened 33 years ago. And my book, Innocent Rage, is more relevant today. If you want to get a copy of the book, it's just me to you. I take it off all digital platforms. I got an album that I've taken off on digital platforms. So just reach out to me, Kweisithebrand, or go to InnocentRageFoundation.org, InnocentRageFoundation.org. My email there and my HIP number is there too. So again, I appreciate you, Claire. Continue to do the brilliant work that you're doing in the community and allowing, human beings, poets, activists like myself, the opportunity to share our stories on your platform. Peace.
Peace and blessings. Let me say it's been a pleasure, and I want to thank our viewing and listening audience. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We're going to get some tips from our brother to share with our viewing and listening audience, because this is a sensitive matter, and some people that you would not presume, even especially on the Hollywood scene, have taken their own lives, and it was a shock. So, and I would say suicide has no demographic. That's
age limit.
No age limit. It's wide open. It's open. Yeah.
It's literally the war within ourselves as human beings. And I'm simply saying, we all are poets. We all have a story to tell, and we all have access to a pen and pad. So if you don't have the right to be a poet. You just write a journal just to let out those emotions.
Yes.
Because Claire, love can make you do some crazy things. And if you don't know how to express that feeling, somebody break your heart, or you're in love with someone and you don't express that, you stalking people on on social media, you pull up at their house, their job, just doing ill things. So if you don't know how to express love, you could put yourself, compromise yourself. So writing poetry, journaling, though, again, it may be cheesy, maybe people might, I'm not gonna, I don't even like poetry. Yeah, if you like rap music, you like poetry. You like
Yeah.
country music, you like poetry. If you like hip hop, rock music, you like poetry, because you take the genre of music away, and the words on the page itself is a poem. So we all like poetry.
Absolutely. We all have something to
Just
say. Right.
Just
That's
right.
right.
I'm telling you, when you write it out, it's liberating, it's self-freeing, and forgiveness is not about the person who caused you the pain and hurt. It's truly about you freeing yourself from that emotional bondage, being in that self-pity party, and being behind those emotional bars of pain, hurt, anger, rage, hate, and trauma. So forgiveness is truly about you, the individual, and not the person that committed such a horrendous act or caused you pain and hurt. You know what I'm saying? And most of the time, the people who will hurt you are the people within your own community or your family, the first to betray you. Hey, Jesus was betrayed by what? Peter 3 times?
Yes, sir.
Betrayed by Judas. Joseph betrayed by his brothers. Hey, Eve beguiled or betrayed Adam.
Mm-hmm.
In the garden. You know what I'm saying? So, but when you learn these things spiritually, you understand life and the emotional behavior of human beings who are not tapped into their God, or even if you get tapped in, sometimes as human beings, we become emotional and we don't display self-control. So what did Jesus teach the disciples? How many times you forgive? Jesus like 7. He's like 7? Oh, I could do that. No, 70 times 7.
That's right.
So that means regardless of how many times your brother hurts you, you forgive them. Now, you don't have to break bread with the brother all the time, but you might have to love them from afar.
Mm-hmm.
No, because you don't want to be nobody's emotional, spiritual doormat either. You know what I'm saying? But again, forgiveness is about you and letting that person know that, yo, I love you, but we can't interact like we used to no more because you betrayed me too many times. But you still forgive them, and you just keep.
And it doesn't even have to be in that realm of violence, but just in things in common day. Somebody may hurt you physically or mentally or said some harmful words. Just take the time to, first of all, sit still and count, as they say, get yourself together and just say, this is not going to be impacting me. And I tell people there's no such thing as a bad day. It's a small moment that needs to keep moving because I got other things to do. You know what I mean? So we're going to go to church in a minute. Let me do this. So let's do this. So everyone, you've been tuning in and watching Senior Talk with Claire Hubbard. Our special guest is my brother Kwesi, the poet. Let me say, you want to make sure that you'll find them on social media, on Instagram. We're going to be sharing this with everyone. But I just thank you for your time. And as I mentioned prior, the transparency and the energy. We'll definitely be doing this again. But we want to thank everyone for joining us. And as our closing remarks go, in complete darkness, we are all the same. It is only our knowledge and wisdom that separate us. Don't let your eyes deceive you. Everyone, take care of yourself. Love on each other, and we will see you next time for Senior Talk with Claire Hubbard.
Peace, love, and forgiveness.